This unit is dealing with rocks and soil, and in order to talk about soil and then eventually talk about food, first we need to talk about how that soil is formed and where it comes from. And it comes from our different types of rocks, the ground that you and I walk on every day. We have three different types of rocks, and those are igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and metamorphic rocks. You can see the diagram here and how the arrows flow not in just one circular direction, but they are moving from one rock form in to another and back to that same one or another one again. There is no real start or end to the rock cycle. It is something that you and I think of as when we go outside and we look at various rock structures, that it is one type of rock, and it is. But if we look at the long term, these rocks change form from one to another and then possibly back to the same form again or to the third type itself. For purposes of finding a starting point, let's just start with our molten rock, and that is our magma. So magma inside Earth eventually is going to cool if it gets close enough to Earth's surface or if it makes its way onto Earth's surface. Magma cooling underneath Earth's surface forms intrusive igneous rocks, and those are going to be the rocks that we see a very large crystalline structure with because of the fact that they are cooling at a much slower rate than the rocks that form on top of Earth's surface by lava cooling, and we call those extrusive igneous rocks, and those have the very small crystalline structure because they are not they're losing their heat source by being exposed to the elements on top of Earth's surface. From there, igneous rocks can become, one of three things really. They can be put under so much heat and pressure that it just melts back to becoming magma, or they can be they can make their way into a metamorphic rock where that heat and pressure is still great and it causes it to change forms and become a different rock, but it's not to the point where it's going to completely melt the rock itself. If the igneous rock is exposed to a lot of wind and a lot of rain, glaciers, things of that nature, then it is going to be broken down into smaller pieces, and those smaller pieces we call sediment. The process of breaking the rock down into smaller pieces is what we call weathering, and then when those pieces get carried away to another location, we call that erosion. In order for then that sediment to become a sedimentary rock, it has to be deposited somewhere. So eventually gravity is going to take place and the sediment will be deposited into piles either at the mouth of a river, at the bottom of a hill or a valley, or possibly if it is flat land, then just wherever, when the wind dies down and it for long enough that the sediment can become cemented and compacted together with other sediment to become a sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock can then, the same thing, be broken down into smaller pieces, or it can be put under intense heat and pressure to become a metamorphic rock, and then eventually possibly becoming magma again to start the whole cycle over again in the way that we're looking at it. Again, there's no true start or end point to the rock cycle, as you can see. Both igneous and sedimentary rocks can become metamorphic rocks. Metamorphic rocks that are put under more heat and pressure just melt to become magma again. And then the metamorphic rocks can be weathered and eroded just like igneous and sedimentary rocks to become sediment and eventually become sedimentary rocks again.